Chapter 1. The Empty Ride. The 11:40 night train rolled like a locked jaw through rain. In the last car sat Milton Vale, financier, rich enough to buy silence. By the next station he was dead upright in seat, 18B. No blood, no bottle, no blade. Only a punch ticket cooling in his hand. That was not my affair at first. At 11:40 that night, I was in the kitchen of the old brownstone on West 35th Street, arguing with Fritz Brenner about mustard. Fritz said a certain sharp brown kind was fit for the sausages he had contrived for Mr. Wolf's midnight snack, and I said any mustard that tried to climb into my nose without invitation was a bully. Mr. Wolf, seated at the little table with his beer glass, placed exactly 3 inches from the edge, closed his eyes as if hoping we would both be carried away by floodwater. "Apfu," he said. "Mustard has no morals. It has merely a function." "That's what the Borgias said about poison," I told him. He opened one eye. "Archie, you have been out of the house too much." I had not. Business had been thin for 11 days, and a thin spell at Wolf's house means the bank balance gets lean while Wolf gets broader. He had spent the afternoon in the plant rooms with Theodore Horstman, scowling at a new hybrid orchid, as if it had forged his name. At dinner, he had refused to discuss money, which meant he was thinking about it. Wolf never discussed money until he had decided exactly how much of someone else's he required. The telephone rang at 12:16. Since Fritz had his hands busy and Wolf never answered a telephone, except under circumstances involving fire, murder, or a caller he could insult. I went to the hall and lifted the receiver. Nero Wolf's residence. Archie Goodwin speaking. The voice was male, tight, and trying to be official. "This is Inspector Kramer. Put Wolf on." "Happy to hear you too. He's chewing. Put him on." "He chews privately." "Goodwin." That was enough warmth for one conversation. I returned to the kitchen. Wolf had not moved except to lower his eyelids another 1/4 inch. "Inspector Kramer," I said. "He sounds as if someone stole his cigar and left him the smoke." Wolf sighed. "Tell him I am unavailable." "He knows that. He wants you anyway." Wolf put down his fork. That was serious. "Very well." He did not rise. I carried the instrument to him on the long cord, an operation I have performed often enough to qualify for a union card. He took it. "Yes." He listened. His face did not change, but a wolf face not changing can be as expressive as another man turning purple. "No," he said. A pause. "Number," a longer pause. "That is not inducement. It is noise." Another pause. "Indeed." He handed me the receiver. "Mr. Kramer wishes to bleat at you." I took it. "Bleat away." "Listen, you wise guy. A man named Milton Vale was found dead on the Hudson and Northern train at Melville Junction 20 minutes ago. Maybe poison, maybe heart, maybe something cute. His daughter is screaming for Wolf." "Why Wolf?" "Because she says her father told her if anything happened tonight, she was to go to Nero Wolf. And because the man had Wolf's name and address written on the back of his ticket." I looked at Wolf. He had resumed chewing, but slowly. "Who punched the ticket?" I asked. "The conductor, naturally." "Then why mention it?" "Because it was in his hand. Dead men don't usually sit holding tickets as if they're waiting for a refund. Some financiers do." "Get Wolf down here." "To Melville Junction." "Yes." I covered the mouthpiece. "He wants you at Melville Junction." Wolf's reaction was exactly what I expected. "Number," I uncovered. "He says no." I heard him. "Then you come, bring eyes, if not brains." Flattery always works. "Where?" He gave me the station, the car number, and enough growling to wrap around it. I hung up and went for my coat. Wolf said, "Archie." "Yes, sir." "Get the facts, not conjectures. Facts. I thought I might collect a few seashells and learn who knew Mr. Vale intended to consult me." I stopped with one sleeve on. "Did he?" Wolf turned his head. "At 5:30 this afternoon, a man telephoned asking whether I would receive Milton Vale at 10 tomorrow morning on a matter of urgent personal danger." I said, I would receive Mr. Vale if he brought a retainer adequate to urgency. The appointment was made. And you didn't mention it? It was not yet interesting. It has improved, apparently. Rain was coming down hard enough to make the sidewalk shine like black glass. I got the roadster from the garage, pointed it north, and spent 40 minutes explaining to other drivers through my horn that the streets belonged to me by right of superior reflexes. By the time I reached Melville Junction, the station lamps were yellow halos in the wet, and a knot of police, railroad men, and citizens hungry for a corpse were gathered near the last car of the train. Inspector Kramer was there, broad, damp, and unhappy, chewing an unlit cigar. "About time," he said. I stopped to plant orchids. He led me into the car. Seat 18B was on the right, 2 rows from the rear door. Milton Vale sat there as advertised, except that the advertisement had understated him. He was a spare, handsome man of about 60, with silver hair brushed back from a forehead made for boardrooms. His eyes were closed. His mouth was not open. His right hand lay palm, up on his thigh. Fingers curved around a punched ticket. His left hand rested on the arm of the seat. He looked less dead than offended. A doctor in a wet overcoat stood nearby. "No external wound," he said, as if I had asked. "Death perhaps occurred between 11:50 and 12:05. Perhaps," I said. "That's a good medical word," Kramer said. His daughter was in the next car, his secretary too, also 4 people who had business with him. They all say he was alive when the train left Grand Central. That's generous of them. I bent and looked without touching. The ticket had been punched twice. Not once. One punch was the neat railroad oval. The other was smaller, almost round, near the edge. The paper was damp at one corner, but not from rain. There was no rain inside the car. I sniffed. I got wool, old cigar smoke, wet leather, and the faint mineral smell of train heat. No almond, no bitter herbs, no theater poison. "Has anything been moved?" Kramer grunted. "Not since my men got here. Before that, every fool in a cap leaned over him." "Fine. That preserves the democratic tradition." I studied the seat. Vale wore grey gloves, expensive and thin. His overcoat was open. In the breast pocket was a folded newspaper. In the side pocket, a silver pencil, a key ring, and a packet of mints unopened. No bottle, no glass, no food wrapper. "Where's the daughter?" "In the station master's office." "Secretary, with her." "Conductor?" "Here." The conductor was a bony man named Rudd, with a face like a tired horse and a cap in both hands. He said he had punched Vale's ticket soon after the train left the city. Vale had been alone then, reading the newspaper. Rudd had returned once through the car around midnight and thought Vale was asleep. At Melville Junction, a porter tried to wake him because the train was being held for police on account of Miss Vale's alarm, and discovered that sleep had become permanent. "Why was Miss Vale alarmed?" Rudd swallowed. "She said her father was not answering. She had sent a note." "What note?" Kramer produced it from an envelope. The paper was cream, folded once. "Father, Mr. Loring has followed us onto the train. I saw him pass through car 3. Please come at once." "E is daughter, Eleanor Vale," Kramer said. I read it twice. "Who carried it?" "A porter named Sims. Says he gave it to Vale." "When?" 11:52. "And Vale." "Sims says Vale took it, read it and said, 'Tell her I am quite safe where I am.' I looked at the dead man. He had confidence." "Too much," Kramer said. "Who is Loring?" Kramer's jaw moved. "That's one of the things you're here to find out." The station master's office contained Eleanor Vale, her secretary's grief, and 5 chairs all badly arranged. Eleanor Vale was 30 or so, dark-haired, steady, and too pale for cosmetics. She wore black because women with money often dress for tragedy before it arrives. Beside her sat a young man with horn, rimmed glasses, and an anxious mouth, introduced as Philip Anson, Vale's private secretary. Near the window stood a tall, rawboned woman of 50 with iron-grey hair and a chin that could have signed contracts. That was Mrs. Adelaide Crane, Vale's sister. In another chair was a plump man with pink cheeks and soft hands, Benjamin Tallow, attorney. The fourth citizen, standing because he liked to loom, was Jared Loring. So Loring had followed after all. He was handsome in the way a knife is handsome, narrow, polished, and useful for trouble. He looked at me as if deciding whether I was worth sharpening. Kramer did introductions with no pleasure. Goodwin works for Nero Wolfe. That caused a stir. Eleanor Vale rose. Mr. Wolfe didn't come. Mr. Wolfe does not leave his house on rainy nights for dead financiers. He sent me, which is nearly the same thing except lighter. She swallowed that, barely. My father trusted him. Your father had an appointment with him tomorrow. Her eyes widened. Then he reached him. By telephone, yes. What was he afraid of? Nobody answered. That is always interesting. I looked from one face to another. All right, let's try easy ones. Miss Vale, why did you send that note? Because I saw Mr. Loring. Loring smiled thinly. An offense punishable by death, apparently. She ignored him. My father had told me that if Mr. Loring came near him tonight, I was to warn him at once. Why? My father did not say. Did you ask? Yes. He said, I would know enough tomorrow. And why were you on the train? We were going to our house at Lake Tamworth for the weekend. My father insisted we travel tonight instead of tomorrow. Who is we? My father, myself, Mr. Anson, Mrs. Crane and Mr. Tallow. Tallow cleared his throat. I was invited to discuss a legal matter. What legal matter? That is confidential. Not from murder, I said. Kramer growled. Answer him. Tallow's pink deepened. A revision of Mr. Vale's will. That stirred the air more than a window opened in winter. Mrs. Crane said, Ben, must you? Yes, I said. Ben must. When was it to be revised? At Lake Tamworth tomorrow morning, Tallow said. Mr. Vale wished to alter several bequests. Who lost? He looked at Eleanor, then at Crane, then at the floor. I had not yet seen the new instructions. Philip Anson said, I typed them. Everyone looked at him. He flushed. Mr. Vale dictated notes before we left the office. They were sealed in his portfolio. Where is the portfolio? Another silence, Kramer snapped. We haven't found it. That was better than mustard, I said. He had it on the train. Anson nodded. A black leather portfolio. He would never travel without it. Eleanor put a hand to her throat. It was with him. I saw it when he boarded. I turned to Loring. And you, why were you on the train? To travel, he said. A rare motive destination. Melville Junction. Busyness. Personal. With Milton Vale. His smile faded. Mr. Vale and I had nothing to say to each other. Miss Vale says otherwise. Miss Vale has imagination and nerves, Eleanor said sharply. You threatened him yesterday. I warned him. Of what? That thieves sometimes fall. Mrs. Crane made a sound. Tallow looked at his shoes. Anson looked at Loring with pure fear. I said, Mr. Loring, what did Mr. Vale steal? Loring's eyes stayed on mine. A company, a patent, a man's life's work. Choose the noun you like, Kramer said. Save the speeches. Did you see Vale tonight? Number, did you enter the last car? Number, Eleanor said. I saw you pass through car 3 toward the rear. I passed through car 3 to the washroom between cars. I returned. Anybody see you return? I asked. No doubt someone did. That meant no. The porter Sims was brought in. He was small, neat, and scared. He confirmed the note. He had taken it from Miss Vale in car 2, carried it through car 3 and car 4, and handed it to Mr. Vale in the last car. Vale had read it and given the message already quoted. Sims had noticed no one near him. Did he put the note anywhere? I asked. In his coat pocket, sir. Inside, I think. The note had not been found on him. When you gave it to him, was he holding his ticket? No, sir. Ticket was tucked in his hatband. I looked at Kramer. Hat. Kramer jerked his thumb. Vale's black felt hat lay in the rack above 18B. No ticket in the band now, so at 11:50, Vale was alive, had a ticket in his hatband, and put Eleanor's note in his inside pocket. At 12-something he was dead, holding the ticket, and the note and portfolio had vanished. That was not a locked jaw of a train anymore. It was a mouth full of missing teeth. I returned to the body for another look. Kramer came along. "Well?" he demanded. "Well, what? Don't get cute. Is it poison?" "I'm not a doctor. You're Wolf's errand boy. That entitles me to be ignorant at a higher rate." The medical examiner, who had arrived and replaced the first doctor in authority if not in cheer, said the body would be taken for examination. I asked for 1 minute and got 30 seconds. I used them on the ticket. It was for Grand Central to Lake Tamworth, punched at the starting gate, then again by the conductor. The small round hole near the edge bothered me, though later it would prove to be misdirection from the ticket's contact with the mechanism, not the killing instrument itself. It was too neat for a tear and too pointless for railroad business. Also, Vale's gloved fingers held it not naturally but deliberately, thumb pressed across the printed destination as if to hide it or mark it. I did not touch it. I merely looked. Back in the station master's office, Eleanor Vale had recovered enough to be angry. "Mr. Goodwin, will Mr. Wolf take the case?" "That depends." "On what?" "Mostly on Mr. Wolf. My father intended to hire him. I will pay whatever fee he asks." "That helps him think." Kramer snorted. Eleanor stepped closer. "Tell him this. My father was not merely afraid. He was ashamed. I have never seen him ashamed before." That was worth carrying home. I asked her one more question. "When did you last speak with him?" "On the platform before boarding. He told me not to sit with him. He said if anyone tried to approach him, I was to watch who it was, not interfere." "Did he expect danger from one person?" "I thought so. Now, I don't know." "Why not?" "Because before we left the house he burned 3 letters. He kept only 1 line from them. I saw it on his desk blotter." "What line?" She shut her eyes, remembering. "The empty ride is paid for." I drove back to Manhattan in rain that had become spiteful. At 1:35, I let myself into the brownstone. The hall was warm and smelled faintly of wood polish, beer, and Fritz's late supper. Wolf was in the office, not in bed. That was practically panic. He sat behind his desk in the custom-made chair, yellow shirt immaculate, eyes half closed. On his desk were a glass of beer, the evening paper, and the atlas he consults when deciding that all travel is unnecessary. "Well," he said. I hung up my coat. "Milton Vale is dead, upright. No wound, ticket in hand, portfolio missing, daughter alarmed by a man named Jared Loring, sister, lawyer, secretary, daughter, and Loring all aboard. Will revision scheduled for tomorrow. Note from daughter delivered to Vale at 11:52, vanished." Vale told the porter he was safe where he was. He wasn't. Wolf grunted. "Poison. Describe it." I did. Location. Near the edge. Smaller than the conductor's punch round. Could it be accidental? Not unless accidents have stationary supplies. He drank beer. Who benefits by the missing portfolio? Everybody, until we know what was in it. Archie. Yes, sir. Phone Miss Vale in the morning. She will come at 11. Suppose Kramer locks her up for safekeeping. He won't. He prefers menacing me. I sat. There's a phrase, the empty ride is paid for. Vale had burned letters containing it or connected with it. Wolf's lips tightened. Not much, but enough, indeed. You know it. Number. But it is phrased by someone pleased with himself. I dislike him already. So do I. Also Loring, says Vale. Stole a company, a patent, and a man's life's work. Men often say that when what was stolen was a profit. True, but he looked as if he meant it. Men often do. The phone rang again. I got it. This time the voice was not official. It was a whisper, and whispers at 2 in the morning. are seldom selling soap. Is this Nero Wolf's house? Yes. Tell him not to take the Vale case. Who's calling? Tell him the train was empty before it started. Meaning, but the line clicked dead. I turned. Wolf was watching me, I repeated it. For once he did not say pee-fooey. He leaned back, closed his eyes, and moved one finger in a small circle on the arm of his chair. The train, he said, was not empty. Therefore the statement is either nonsense metaphor or fact concealed as nonsense. Archie, get Mr. Kramer at 2 in the morning, with pleasure. And tell him this. No one is to leave police custody until I have spoken with them. He'll love that. He may love what he chooses. Also ask him whether the ticket in Mr. Vale's hand has been examined for puncture residue. Puncture residue? Wolf opened his eyes. A small round hole in paper may be made before the paper reaches the hand. Or after, if after, it may show where the ticket met something hidden nearby, not necessarily where the fatal stroke entered. I stared at him. He reached for his beer. Confounded. Must I draw pictures at this hour? I dialed Kramer. He answered with a bark. This is Goodwin. Wolf says nobody leaves. Also, examine the ticket for puncture residue. What the devil is puncture residue? Something that makes him sound smarter than both of us. Kramer used a word not suitable for orchids and hung up. Wolf rose. I am going to bed. At last, you will type your notes first, naturally. A man had died on a train. A daughter had brought us shame wrapped in grief. A portfolio had disappeared. A ticket had acquired an extra hole. And an anonymous philosopher had telephoned to say the train was empty before it started. Under the circumstances, Wolf could sleep, I could type. I sat at my desk, rolled in paper, and began Milton Vale. Dead in seat, 18B ticket in hand. Empty ride. Outside, rain tapped the windows of West 35th Street, like fingers asking to be let in. Chapter 2, The Wrong Question. Police hunted poison in coffee, smoke, and crumbs. Detective Rowan Pike looked instead at the seats. Men like Vale don't sit by chance, he said. Seat 18B had been chosen, not taken. That observation reached Wolf's desk before the coffee cooled, and Wolf does not like his coffee cooling for any reason. Philosophical or otherwise. I had just finished reporting the morning's harvest from Inspector Kramer, who had been distributing irritation since 8 o'clock, when I added Pike's remark. Wolf paused with his cup halfway to his lips, which in that room counted as an event. Who is this Pike? He asked. County detective, calm, thin and annoyingly observant. Kramer dislikes him, so naturally I admire him. Your criteria are whimsical, Wolf said. What did he mean? Specifically, not a random seat, not convenient, chosen. Wolf set his cup down. Then the seat is not furniture, it is a factor. That's what Pike thinks. Then Mr. Pike may be tolerated. I produced the seating diagram I had obtained from the railroad and spread it on Wolf's desk. He studied it in silence, which for Wolf is the equivalent of 3 pages of dialogue. Last car, he murmured. Near the rear door, aisle seat. Right where a man might expect privacy, I said. Or exposure, Wolf corrected. From behind. I let that sit. Who secured the reservation? He asked. Philip Anson, Vale's secretary. He says Vale instructed him to request 18B if available. If available, Wolf repeated. Therefore, Vale knew the layout. He rides that line often, yet did not always choose that seat. Number. Then last night was exceptional. Apparently. Wolf closed his eyes. Bring them here. All of them. They're already in police hands. Then ask Mr. Kramer to bring them. If he refuses, ask him again less politely. Kramer arrived at 11 with Pike in tow and enough hostility to fill a separate chair. The rest followed in a procession of nerves and calculations. Eleanor Vale, pale but composed, Philip Anson, looking as if sleep had resigned, Mrs. Crane, rigid as a contract, Tallow, damp with legal anxiety, and Loring, who carried his defiance like a lapel flower. Wolf did not stand. He does not rise for suspects. He stated his fee, secured agreement, and began. Mr. Anson, he said, you reserved seat 18B. Yes, at Mr. Vale's request. Yes, exact words. Anson hesitated. He said, get me 18B if the chart is unchanged. Wolf's eyes opened slightly. If the chart is unchanged, did you inquire what that meant? Number, why not? I assumed he knew the train. Assumption is a narcotic, Wolf said. Continue. Did you inform anyone of this reservation? Number Loring made a sound. Not quite a laugh, not quite a cough. Wolf turned to him. Mr. Loring, you find that amusing. I find it unlikely. You assert Mr. Anson told you of Vale's travel. I assert we spoke. Yesterday evening. Anson sprang up. That's a lie. Sit down, Wolf said without raising his voice. Anson sat. Pike spoke quietly. The elevator starter at the Cromwell building recalls Mr. Anson speaking with a tall man at 6'10". Anson swallowed. I speak with many people. Not many named Loring, I said. Kramer grunted approval. Wolf ignored the noise. Mr. Loring, what passed between you? Loring leaned back. He told me Vale would be on the 11:40, that he was frightened, that if I wanted words with him, I should come. Did he mention seat 18B? Number, did you intend to meet Vale on the train? Number at Melville Junction. Why there? I received a note. From whom? I don't know. What did it say? That Vale would meet me beside the baggage room. Do you have it? I burned it. Wolf's lips moved a fraction. Of course you did. Eleanor Vale spoke. My father warned me about him. Wolf turned. What precisely did your father say? That if Mr. Loring approached him, I was to observe, not interfere. And yet you sent him a note. Yes, because I saw Mr. Loring pass through the cars, toward the rear. Yes, did he return? I did not see him return, Loring said. Because I did not remain, Pike said. No one confirms your return. Loring's eyes flicked. No one denies it. Kramer snorted. That's not the same thing. Wolf lifted a hand. Silence followed. Mr. Sims, he said to the porter. You delivered Miss Vale's note. Yes, sir. At what time? 11:52. Describe Mr. Vale. He was sitting upright reading, alone. Did he remove his gloves? No, sir. Did he hold his ticket? No, sir. It was in his hatband. And the portfolio? On the seat beside him. Seat 18A. Yes, sir. After delivering the note. Did you see the portfolio again? Sims hesitated. I don't recall. Kramer snapped. Think. I passed through once more, sir, around midnight. I thought Mr. Vale was asleep. I didn't look at the seat. And you're near him? No, sir. Wolf nodded and turned to Pike. The last car was added shortly before departure. Yes, replacement car. Who had access before attachment? Rail yard staff cleaner's inspector. Was it secured? Not continuously. Then the seat could have been prepared. Pike met Wolf's gaze. That's what I think. Wolf inclined his head slightly. That was as close as he comes to agreement without ownership. Prepared how? Kramer demanded. Wolf ignored him. Mr. Goodwin described the ticket. Standard stock, 2 punches from the conductor, 1 smaller hole near the edge, brown residue, location of residue, around the small hole. Was Mr. Vale wearing gloves when found? Yes. Any damage to them? Pike answered. Right glove, small tear at the thumb. Kramer turned. Why wasn't that in my report? It was, Pike said mildly. Page 3. Wolf closed his eyes. Inspector, if you must be angry, be thorough. Kramer subsided. Wolf said. Mr. Vale receives a note at 11:50. 2. He places it in his pocket. He removes his ticket at some later moment. He is found dead holding that ticket. The portfolio vanishes. Therefore, 3 acts occurred after the note. Removal of ticket, removal of portfolio and death. Tallow said weakly, "That seems obvious." "Obvious is merely unexamined," Wolf said. "The question asked has been, what did he ingest? That is the wrong question. The correct question is, what was arranged?" Eleanor whispered. "In the seat, possibly, or in the object he handled." "The ticket," I said. Wolf opened one eye. "You improve, Archie." Kramer snapped. "You saying the ticket killed him?" "I am saying the ticket was instrumental." Pike nodded. "A puncture. Explain," Kramer said. Pike spoke evenly. "If a fine needle passed through the ticket, embedded perhaps, and Vale grasped it, it could pierce the glove and skin, and poison him." Kramer said, "Possibly, or introduce something." Wolf said, "Without visible wound." "Through the glove," Pike said. We all looked at the chart again, as if 18B might confess. Wolf turned to Anson. "Mr. Anson, did Mr. Vale handle his ticket frequently?" "Number he kept it in his hatband until inspection." "Did he remove it for any reason?" "Not usually. Then last night, he did so for a reason." Anson swallowed. "Perhaps to show it. To whom?" "I don't know. Miss Vale, did your father expect a meeting on the train?" "Number, Mr. Loring." "Number, then the removal of the ticket was either habitual deviation or induced action." "That sounds like you're dancing," Kramer said. Wolf ignored him. "Mr. Pike, the car was attached late. Who knew?" "Rail staff. Passengers." "Unlikely." Then Mr. Vale's insistence on 18B required either prior knowledge or manipulation. Pike nodded again. Wolf leaned back. "The phrase reported by Mr. Goodwin, 'The train was empty before it started,' may refer not to passengers but to control. The arrangement was complete before boarding. The participants merely enacted it." "That's pretty," I said. "Also vague." Wolf opened both eyes. "It will improve." Kramer stood. "You've got nothing." Wolf looked at him. "On the contrary, we have eliminated chance. That is not nothing." After some more noise and removal of witnesses under police escort. The room quieted. Eleanor Vale remained. She said, "Do you think Mr. Loring did it?" "I think Mr. Loring is convenient," Wolf said. "And the others. Also convenient. That is not comforting. Comfort is not my profession." She left. When the door closed, Wolf sat without speaking. "Go to the rail yard. See seat 18B. The police sealed it. Unseal it." "With what?" "A crowbar. With Mr. Pike. He will permit observation if it does not humiliate him." "And what am I looking for?" Wolf's eyes closed again. "Not poison. Preparation." I stood. "And Archie?" "Yes. Do not assume the needle is in the seat." "Where then?" "In the answer to the wrong question." "That clears it up beautifully." He did not reply. I went out, wondering whether seat 18B had killed a man, or whether the man had simply chosen the wrong place to die. Chapter 3. The 4 passengers. There were only 4 others in the car. A clerk, a widow, a porter, and a student. Each claimed they never touched Vale. Each had a ticket bought within 10 minutes of departure. That timing rang louder than the train bell. I reached the Hudson and Northern Yard at 1:15, with the rain still working overtime, and my hat beginning to feel like a sponge with ambitions. Detective Rowan Pike was waiting near the gate, coat collar up, hands in pockets, looking as if he had been born in weather like this, and saw no reason to complain. "You're late," he said. "I had to consult a genius," I told him. "He recommended I bring eyes." "That's useful," Pike said. "Come on." The car had been shunted to a side track and sealed with the sort of authority that makes honest men nervous and guilty men polite. Pike produced the necessary words, and we were admitted by a uniform who didn't like either of us, but liked Pike's badge enough to step aside. Inside, the car smelled different without passengers. Less human, more mechanical. The faint warmth lingered, along with traces of damp wool and travel fatigue. Seat 18B sat there as before, innocent as furniture always is when nobody's looking at it. "Don't sit," Pike said. "I got that advice already." We stood over it like two undertakers considering a client. "Show me," I said. Pike pointed. "Right here, edge of the seat, back pocket." I leaned in. The pocket was standard, leather flap, reinforced edge. But near the inner seam, barely visible unless you knew to look, there was a pinprick hole. Clean, precise. Not a tear. "You think something was set there?" "I think something could have been," Pike said. Thin needle angled forward. A man reaches for something, ticket, paper, presses his hand in, gets pricked. Through a glove, thin glove. "Yes," I nodded. "And the residue on the ticket. Could be transfer, or could be separate. Helpful." He ignored that. "Lab's still working on it." I examined the floor, the seat, the armrest. No visible mechanism, no spring, no wire. If there had been something, it had been removed cleanly. "Too clean," I said. "Yes, meaning the person who set it knew they'd have to take it away." Pike glanced at me. "Or knew someone else would." That was worth pocketing. We checked the seat across. 18A, no marks, no irregularities. The seats behind, empty, ahead. Nothing useful. The car itself had no secrets left in plain sight. "Let's talk about the four," Pike said. "The clerk, the widow, the porter, and the student. They were all in this car, all bought tickets within 10 minutes of departure. That's a crowd with a purpose." "Or a coincidence," Pike said. "Sure, and wolf diets." Pike's mouth twitched. "You want to meet them? I was hoping you'd ask." They were being held in a waiting room that had seen better decades. 4 chairs, 1 table, and enough suspicion in the air to season a stew. The clerk was first, a narrow man with ink on his fingers and a face that apologized in advance. Name of Herbert Klein. I didn't touch him. Klein said before I asked. "I'm sure you didn't," I said. "You barely look like you touch your own lunch." He blinked. I kept to myself. "Why last? Minute ticket. My employer sent me suddenly urgent documents." "Which employer?" "Grayson and Bell. Law firm." "Yes, documents still with you." He produced a briefcase. Inside, papers neat, dull and apparently innocent. "Where were you seated?" 17B ahead of him. "Did you turn around?" "Number, not once." I may have glanced. "Did you see anyone approach him?" "Number, did you leave your seat?" "Number, not even for the washroom." He hesitated. "Once." "When?" "Around midnight." "And?" "I passed through the rear vestibule. No one was there." "Did you see the portfolio?" "Number, that was Klein, small, tidy, and either truthful or very good at pretending to be unimportant." Next was the widow, Mrs. Agnes Hart. She wore black properly and looked at me as if I was something she had ordered and regretted. "I told the police everything," she said. "Then you'll enjoy telling me again." She did not enjoy it. "I sat by the window," she said. 18C. "Across the aisle." "Yes." "Did you see Mr. Vale?" "Of course." "Did you see anyone approach him?" "Number, did you speak to him?" "Number, did he speak to you?" "Number, did you leave your seat?" "Only once." "When?" "I believe just before midnight." "For what purpose?" She stiffened, personal. "Of course, did you pass behind him?" "Yes." "Did you notice anything?" "Number, not even the portfolio." She hesitated. "There was something on the seat beside him. I did not look closely." "Did you see it later?" "Number, that was less tidy." The student came next, young, eager, and trying not to look it. Name, Daniel Riss. "I study chemistry," he said, as if offering credentials. "That's comforting," I told him. "Did you kill anyone recently?" "No." "Relax. Where were you sitting?" 19A, behind him. "Empty seat beside you." "Yes." "Did you see him?" "From behind." "Yes." "Did you see anyone approach?" Numbered. "Did you leave your seat?" "Yes." "When?" "Around 11:50. "Before the stop." "For what?" "To stretch my legs." "Did you go forward or back?" "Back." Past him. Yes. Did you notice anything? Number. Nothing at all. He hesitated. He was holding something. The ticket. I think so. That was interesting. Sims had said the ticket was in the hatband at 11:52. Riss said Vale held something before that. Are you sure? I asked. Not completely. It was quick. Did you touch him? Numbered. Did you touch his seat? Numbered. Did you touch anything near him? Number that left the porter. Sims we already knew, but there was another. Off duty. Traveling home. Name. Carl Dugan. Broad, quiet and watchful. I wasn't working that car, he said. Just riding in it. Yes. Seat. 19B. Next to the student. Yes. Did you see Vale? From behind. Did you see anyone approach him? Numbered. Did you leave your seat? Number. Not at all. Number. You sat still the entire time. Yes. That's impressive, I said. Most men twitch. He didn't answer. Did you notice the portfolio? Numbered. Did you notice anything unusual? Numbered. Did you buy your ticket late? Yes. Why? Got off shift late. Where do you work? Rail yard. Which one? He named the very yard we had just come from. That rang like a bell. I looked at Pike. Pike looked at Dugan. Neither of us smiled. Thank you, I said. Stay available. We stepped out into the corridor. Well, Pike said. Well, either we have 4 remarkably dull people or 4 remarkably careful ones. Timing, Pike asked. All within 10 minutes of departure. That's not coincidence. That's coordination. Or opportunity, Pike said. Sure, and 4 men just happened to sneeze at the same time. Pike folded his arms. Dugan works the yard. He could access the car before attachment, meaning he could prepare the seat. Yes, but he didn't leave his seat, so he says. And the student puts the ticket in Vale's hand earlier than reported. Yes, and the widow passed behind him. Yes, and the clerk took a walk to the rear. Yes, we stood there with it. 4 passengers, I said, each with access, each with opportunity, each with a reason to lie, and each with a ticket bought at the last minute, Pike said. That's the loudest part. Why? Because it means they weren't planning to travel. They were planning to be on that train. Pike nodded slowly. And not just on the train, I said. In that car, and near that seat, and near that man. We looked back through the glass at them. 4 ordinary faces, 4 ordinary lives. 1 dead financier. Wolf's going to like this, I said. Pike gave me a sidelong look. You sound pleased. I am. It's starting to make sense. It's starting to get complicated. Same thing, I said. I headed for the door. Where now? Pike asked. Back to West 35th Street. Wolf's probably already solved it and is waiting for me to catch up. And if he hasn't, then he'll pretend he has. Rain hit me again like a reminder that the world doesn't care about deductions. I got into the roadster and pointed it south, thinking about 4 tickets, 1 seat, and a man who had paid for an empty ride, and gotten it. Chapter 4, The Habit of Gold. Rowan learned Vale. Always rode last car, right window. 4th row from the rear. He liked seeing who entered behind him. But that night, his usual seat had been taken, so he moved 1 row forward. To 18B when I came back to West 35th Street. The rain had thinned to a patient drizzle, the kind that doesn't threaten but insists. The brownstone stood as it always did, solid, composed and faintly superior to the rest of the city. Inside, the air held its usual blend of orchids, polished wood, and Fritz's cooking, which together form a kind of civilized conspiracy against the outside world. Wolf was in the office. That in itself was not unusual, but the position of his eyes closed, yet attentive, told me he was thinking, not resting. When Wolf thinks, the house adjusts itself around him. Even the ticking clock sounds as if it is waiting permission. Well, he said. Vale didn't pick 18B, I told him. He was pushed into it without being touched. One eyelid lifted. Explain. He had a regular seat, I said, dropping into the red leather chair. Last car, right window, 4th row from the rear. 918A rode there often enough to make it habit. He liked seeing who came in behind him. Those are often synonyms. Either way, he expected that seat, but last night it was taken. By whom? The widow, Agnes Hart. Both eyes opened. Interesting. She bought her ticket within 10 minutes of departure. Same as the other 3 in that car. Wolf leaned back slightly, absorbing it. Continue. So Vale boards, sees his seat occupied, and shifts forward 1 row to 18B. The seat we suspect was prepared. Exactly, and Riss remains in his accustomed position, right behind him. Or rather, Wolf said, in the position he intended to occupy. That's cleaner. Yes. I stretched my legs. So we've got a man displaced from habit into danger. That's not random. No, Wolf said. It is design. I watched him. You're certain? I am never certain, he said, but I am convinced. That's close enough. He ignored the remark. Mr. Vale's habits were known, he continued. Therefore they could be exploited. The question is, by whom? Secretary knew, family knew, anyone watching him long enough could know. Observation requires motive, Wolf said, or curiosity. Curiosity is motive, he replied. I nodded. Then there's the timing. All 4 passengers in that car bought tickets at the last minute. Yes, that is significant. It's more than significant. It's loud, indeed. They didn't just want to be on the train, they wanted to be in that car, and in proximity to Mr. Vale, which puts them in position for whatever happened. Yes, I leaned forward, but here's the part I don't like. There are too many of them. Too many for what? For one killer. Then perhaps there was not one. Teamwork. Wolf's lips twitched possibly, but I prefer another explanation, which is layers. Again with that, yes, because it is correct. I sighed. All right, walk me through it. Very well. Mr. Vale expects to sit in 19A. Someone ensures that seat is occupied. Mr. Riss. Mr. Vale moves forward to 18B. That seat has been prepared. He is killed. The preparation is removed. The portfolio disappears. Neat, I said. Too neat. Wolf replied. Meaning? Meaning it required more than one action at more than one time, so multiple people. Or one person with multiple opportunities. That's harder, not necessarily. I got up and paced. Dugan, the porter, had access to the car before attachment, could have prepared the seat. Yes, and he's in the car afterward. Yes, and he claims he never moved. Yes, that's convenient. Very, but maybe too convenient. Wolf opened one eye. Explain. He's obvious. Yard worker, last minute ticket. Sitting right there, if we're supposed to suspect someone, it's him. Therefore maybe he's supposed to be suspected. Wolf nodded faintly. Good. So maybe he didn't set the trap. Maybe he removed it. Yes, which means he came prepared to clean up, or to ensure completion. I stopped pacing. That's colder. Yes. Then the widow places herself near Vale's death seat. Or is placed. Right. And the student and the clerk provide confusion, Wolf said, or assistance, or witnesses who saw nothing. Which is useful. I sat again. I don't like how many pieces this has. Complexity is not an error, Wolf said. It is a clue. To what? To intention. I rubbed my chin. All right. Let's look at Hart. She sits in his seat, forces him forward. Then later she passes behind him. Yes. Opportunity to act. Yes. But if the seat was already prepared, she doesn't need to do anything. Correct. Unless she's confirming something, or retrieving something, or checking timing. Precisely. I nodded slowly. And she claims she saw nothing, which is implausible. Exactly. Wolf shifted slightly. Mr. Vale was not an inconspicuous man. His presence would draw attention. His death, more so. To see nothing is to say nothing. Which is lying, yes. Then heart is lying. Yes. Question is why? Because truth would implicate her, Wolf said. Or someone she protects. Yes. I leaned back. What about Anson, the secretary? Yes. He knew the seat, made the reservation. Therefore, he could direct Mr. Vale's placement. Exactly. And he spoke to Loring. Apparently. So he's feeding information to both sides, or being used by both. That's messy. Yes, but it fits. Wolf closed his eyes again. Messiness often conceals structure. I let that sit. Then there's the phrase. I said, the empty ride is paid for. Yes. What if it refers to the seat Vale didn't take? Possible. Or the life he thought he'd continue. Also possible. Or the plan itself. Wolf opened his eyes. Explain. The ride was arranged before it started. Everything in place. The outcome paid for, in advance. Wolf regarded me. Better. I'm learning slowly. I'll take it. He ignored me. Consider this, he said. If Mr. Vale had reached his usual seat, what then? He'd be alive. Not necessarily. I frowned. You think there was a backup? I think the arrangement accounted for variation. That's confidence. Or necessity. I stood again. You're saying no matter what he did, he was dead. I am saying his death was planned with contingencies. That's a lot of effort. Mr. Vale was a man of consequence, Wolf said. Men of consequence attract elaborate solutions. I went to the window again. The drizzle had stopped, leaving the street shining under a dull sky. Then we're not dealing with impulse, I said. Number, we're dealing with design. Yes, and design means someone thought this through. Correct, and thought Vale through. Yes, I turned back. So who knew him that well? Wolf's eyes closed. That, he said, is the correct question, and the wrong ones. What he ate, what he drank, what he smoked, which is what the police are chasing. Yes, and they'll keep chasing it. Yes, while we look at the seat. Precisely. I grabbed my hat. Back to the yard, I asked. Number, then where? To the ticket office. Wore cords. Yes. Find out how Hart got that seat. Exactly. And if someone helped her. Yes, I paused at the door. You know, this is starting to feel like a game. Wolf opened one eye. It is not a game, he said. It is a demonstration. Of what? Of how a man can be moved one row forward and into death. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I said, that's a neat trick. Neatness, Wolf said, is the enemy of truth. I went out into the street, thinking about that. Somewhere between 19A and 18B, someone had arranged a demonstration, and Milton Vale had been the exhibit. The only question left was who had bought the ticket, and who had paid for the ride. Chapter 5. The occupied seat, the student admitted, sitting in Vale's usual place. He said it was random, but his ticket showed otherwise. It had been bought after Vale's assistant confirmed his travel. Some unknown had forced Vale into the death seat without pushing him. I reached the ticket office of the Hudson and Northern at 5:30, which is not a good hour to ask a clerk to remember anything except his hat. The place smelled of wet coats, dust, old brass, and the sour patience of men who have spent their lives saying, "Next window," to people who could not find one. Behind the counter sat a square man with sleeve garters and a mouth built for refusal. His nameplate said M. Pelham. I introduced myself. Archie Goodwin, I said, for Nero Wolfe. He looked at me as if I had said I represented the King of Siam. Police already came, he said. That was their misfortune. I'm here for intelligence. We gave them the records. Then you've had practice. He started to object. reconsidered, and produced a ledger. I have always admired clerks who resist briefly and then surrender completely. It saves wear on everybody. The entries for the 1140 were there, neat and dull, until you looked at them long enough. 4 late first, class tickets for the last car, bought within 6 minutes. Herbert Klein, 1131. Agnes Hart, 1133. Carl Dugan, 1135. Daniel Riss, 1137. Seat assignments, I said. Pelham tapped the ledger with a blunt finger. There. Klein, 17B Hart, 18C Dugan, 19B Riss, 19A. I looked up. Riss asked for 19A. Pelham gave me a clerk's stare, meaning he had already answered in ink and disliked speech as a supplement. Yes. Not assigned. Requested. By name. By seat. Did he know the chart? He seemed to. Describe him. Young, student type, nervous. Paid cash, that narrows it to half the city. Pelham did not smile. I pointed to Hart. She requested 18C. Yes. Across the aisle from 18B. If you say so. I do, Klein and Dugan. Accepted available seats. Available by then, yes. Was 18B reserved before those 4 bought? Already assigned to Milton Vale. By whom? His secretary earlier. At what time? Pelham checked a separate page. 4:46 yesterday afternoon. Seat 18B specifically, yes. That bothered me, not 19A, number 18B. I frowned. Pike had learned Vale usually took 19A. Now the record said his secretary had asked for 18B. That made 2 truths standing too close together with knives. Who told you 18B? I asked. The secretary, Anson. Yes. In person, telephone. Then messenger collected. What did he say exactly? Pelham sighed. I don't take dictation for history. Try. He asked whether the chart was unchanged. I said it was. He said to reserve 18B for Mr. Milton Vale. There it was again, if the chart was unchanged. And 19A, open until Riss bought it. So if Vale wanted 19A, Anson did not reserve it. That is what the ink says. I thanked him. He looked relieved, which was premature. One more, I said. Did anyone telephone about Vale's reservation after Anson made it? Pelham hesitated. That is one of my favorite sounds. Yes, he said. When, about 11:20, who, a man, asked if Mr. Vale's reservation stood. What did you tell him? I shouldn't have told him anything. But you did. He said he was calling from Mr. Vale's office. What did you tell him? That Mr. Vale had 18B. And that the car had been changed, but the seating chart was same pattern. Did he ask about 19A? Pelham looked annoyed with himself. Yes, asked whether it was available. And you said? Yes. I closed the ledger slowly. 10 minutes later, Riss bought it. Pelham's mouth shut like a cash drawer. Thank you, I said. You have been more helpful than you intended. He didn't like that either. I went straight to where Detective Pike had Riss tucked away in a room that had been designed by someone hostile to comfort. Riss sat at a table, hands folded, spectacles shining under a naked bulb. He looked smaller than he had in the train station, and younger fear will do that to a man. Guilt will help. Pike stood by the window. Find something. Yes, our student is allergic to truth. Rice flinched. I sat opposite him. Daniel, you told me your seat was random. It was. Number, it was 19A. Yes, but you requested it. His mouth opened and closed. Pike said, Did you? Riss looked from him to me. I may have. That's a memory improvement, I said. Let's encourage it. Why 19A? It was available. So were others. I like windows. You told me you were in 19A and Dugan was in 19B. That's behind Vale. You also told me you saw Vale holding something before Sims says the ticket was in his hatband. That was interesting. Now this is more interesting. He licked his lips. I didn't do anything. That is rarely true, and usually irrelevant. I never touched Mr. Vale. I didn't ask if you touched him. I asked why you took his seat. I didn't know it was his. Who told you to buy that ticket? No one. I leaned closer. Daniel, you bought it at 11:37. At 11:20, someone telephoned the ticket office asking about Vale's reservation and whether 19A was available. Then you appeared and requested 19A. That is a coincidence with shoes on. His face changed. It did not confess. Exactly. It folded. I didn't know anyone would die. That's better, I said. Now keep going. Pike moved away from the window and stood behind him. He didn't threaten. He didn't need to. Silence does nice work when properly placed. Riss whispered. I was paid. By whom? I don't know. Try a name. There wasn't one. A face. Number. Money fell from heaven. A note came to my boarding house with $50. That buys a seat. It said another 50 would come if I followed instructions. What instructions? Buy a first-class ticket for the 11:40 last car. Seat 19A. Sit there until Melville Junction. Say nothing to anyone. And that sounded normal. I needed money. That explains stupidity, not silence. He looked at the table. I thought it was some kind of private matter, a test, a prank. Students always reach for pranks when felony is nearby, I said. Where is the note? I burned it. Of course, this case has more burned paper than a tax office, Pike asked. Who delivered the second 50? No one. I didn't get it. Did you see anyone watching you? Number, did you know Milton Vale? Number, did you know he usually sat in 19A? Number, did you see him when he boarded? Yes. And? He stopped beside me, looked at the seat number, looked at me. What did he say? Nothing. Did he seem annoyed? Yes, cold annoyed. That's the expensive kind, I said. Then he moved forward. Riss said, to the aisle seat, 18B. Yes. And you understood then? Numbered. Did anyone signal you? Numbered. Did anyone approach Vale? He hesitated, I said. Careful, you're learning. The widow crossed behind him. Mrs. Hart. Yes. When? After the porter brought the note. How long after? A few minutes. What did she do? She stood near him. Not long. Did she speak? I couldn't hear. Did she touch him? I don't know. Her body blocked my view. Pike and I exchanged a look. What then? I asked. She went forward, then came back later. Empty-handed. I think so. You think I wasn't watching her hands? Daniel, for $50 you were hired to sit and watch nothing. You should have watched everything. He swallowed. Did you see the portfolio? Yes, on the seat beside him. After Mrs. Hart passed? I don't remember. Before? Yes. After? I'm not sure. Did Dugan move? Number? You're certain? Yes. He sat beside me. All the time. Riss hesitated again. Daniel, he leaned forward once. When? After Mr. Vale stopped moving. How did you know he stopped? He had been turning the ticket in his hand, then he didn't. That was a small fact with sharp edges. What did Dugan do when he leaned forward? Nothing, just looked. At Vale, at the floor, maybe. I don't know. Did he reach? I didn't see. The trouble with frightened young men is that their honesty comes mixed with fog. He left Riss with Pike and took the first available telephone to Wolf. Fritz answered and told me Wolf was in the plant rooms. That meant I had to wait. Wolf's schedule has survived everything except murder, and even murder must take a number behind orchids between 4 and 6. At 6:11 he came on. Yes. The student was hired, anonymous note. $50, instruction to buy 19A on the 11:40 and sit there. He says he didn't know Vale, didn't know the habit. Also the ticket office got a call at 11 20 asking if Vale's reservation stood and if 19A was available. Caller claimed to be from Vale's office. Voice? Male, no name. Mr. Anson. Could be. Pelham didn't know. Good, continue. Rice saw Vale board find his usual seat occupied and move to 18B. He also saw Mrs. Hart stand near Vale after Sims delivered Eleanor's note. Hart blocked his view. Later she moved away, portfolio visible before that. Uncertain after. Wolf breathed audibly through his nose. And Dugan, Saturday beside Riss, leaned forward once after Vale stopped moving. Stopped moving. That single syllable from Wolf can mean anything from mild interest to the collapse of empires. You like that? I note it. What now? Bring Riss at once. He's with Pike. Bring Pike too. Kramer. If unavoidable, it was unavoidable. By 7:30 the office held Wolf, Kramer, Pike, Daniel Riss and me. Wolf had dined early and without joy, a sacrifice he later mentioned twice. Riss sat in the red leather chair and looked as though he expected it to swallow him. Kramer occupied the yellow chair and chewed an unlit cigar with professional resentment. Pike stood near the globe. Wolf regarded Riss. Mr. Riss, you were paid to occupy 19A? Yes, sir. You did not know why? No, sir. Foo, you knew you were concealing purpose. Riss flushed. Yes. You were instructed to remain until Melville Junction. Yes. If Mr. Vale had asked you to exchange seats, what were you to do? Riss blinked. Refuse. Those instructions were explicit. Yes. Kramer sat up. You didn't tell us that. I forgot. Forgot, Wolf said. Inspector Noyes is not interrogation. Kramer glared. But the cigar stayed in place. Wolf continued. Exact wording, Mr. Riss. Riss closed his eyes. Do not surrender the seat to any person for any reason. Any person, Wolf repeated. Not merely Mr. Vale. Yes. So the writer knew someone might challenge your occupation, I suppose. Did the note mention money after completion? Yes. Another 50. How was it to be delivered? It said I would find it in my coat pocket when I reached my room. That is theatrical nonsense, Wolf said. Designed to impress a boy. Did you receive it? Number naturally. Murder invalidates small contracts. Kramer muttered something. Wolf ignored him. Mr. Goodwin, the call to the ticket office came at 11:20. Yes. After Mr. Vale's party reached the station. I checked my notes. They arrived around 11:15. Then the caller may have observed them, Pike said. Or been among them. Yes, Wolf said. Mr. Anson, for example. Kramer growled. We're bringing him. Good. Bring Mrs. Hart also. Kramer looked at Pike. Pike nodded and went to the phone. Wolf turned back to Riss. When Mr. Vale saw you in 19A, describe his face. Rice swallowed. He was angry, but not surprised. Wolf's eyes sharpened. Not surprised. Number more like. Confirmed. Confirmed, Wolf murmured. I wrote it down. Did he look at anyone else? Yes. He glanced forward. At 18B. I think so. Did he hesitate? Yes. How long? Only a moment. Then sat. Yes, Wolf leaned back. That is important. Kramer snapped. Why? Because Mr. Vale suspected manipulation but accepted the alternative. Meaning. Meaning. He did not think 18B was dangerous. He thought 19A had been denied him by annoyance. Not by design, Pike said. Or he thought, moving forward, improved his position. Wolf nodded. Possibly. Seeing the aisle better, Pike added. Yes. The doorbell rang. I went. Saul Panzer was not yet involved, but I wished he were. Saul has a way of finding facts while making them feel they volunteered. Instead, I admitted Sergeant Stebbins with Mrs. Hart and Philip Anson. Anson looked pinched. Mrs. Hart looked composed, but her eyes moved once to Riss and away. That one glance paid admission. When they were seated, Wolf wasted no time. Mrs. Hart, You occupied seat 18C. Yes. No, Wolf said. She stiffened. I beg your pardon. You occupied 19A when Mr. Vale boarded. Her hands tightened in her lap. I moved later, she said. Why, I preferred the aisle. That is false. Kramer grinned unpleasantly. Careful, lady, Wolf said. Mr. Riss occupied 19A. You requested 18C. You were across the aisle from Mr. Vale. Mr. Goodwin's earlier report misassigned you through confusion. We have now corrected. The essential point remains. The seat Mr. Vale habitually used was deliberately occupied by Mr. Riss. Mrs. Hart's relief came too quickly. Wolf saw it. So did I. He turned to Anson. Number, did you tell anyone Mr. Vale's reservation? Number, did you tell Mr. Loring of the journey? Number, you are persistent. I am truthful. Pufu. Anson flinched. Wolf leaned forward a little, which for him is a lunge. Mr. Vale's customary seat was 19A, yet you reserved 18B. Why? Anson stared. Because he told me to. That answer has expired. It is true. Then why did he ask? If the chart is unchanged. I don't know. Did he expect 19A to be occupied? Number, did he know 18B would be safe? I don't know. Did you? Anson's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Wolf said softly. Mr. Anson, you are not clever enough to have designed this murder. That is not absolution. It is merely classification. Who used you? Anson's face went grey. Kramer barked. Answer. Anson whispered. I can't. Because you fear him? Wolf asked. No reply. Or her? Wolf added. Mrs. Hart did not move, but the room felt the word strike. Wolf turned to her. Mrs. Hart, you stood beside Mr. Vale after he received his daughter's note. I did not, Rice said. You did. She turned on him. You were reading. I saw you. You saw nothing. Wolf's voice cut in. What did you take from the seat beside him? Nothing. The portfolio. Number, the daughter's note. Her face changed at the last word. There are many kinds of silence. That one had fingerprints. Wolf settled back. Thank you. Kramer stood. That's enough for me. It is not enough for me, Wolf said. It's enough to take her in. Do so if you wish, but if you arrest prematurely, you may lose the hand that held the knife. No knife, I said. Metaphor, Archie. Just keeping the record clean. Mrs. Hart rose. I will say nothing more without counsel. An excellent beginning, Wolf said. Many people should begin there. After Kramer removed her, with Anson retained for further sweating and Riss taken back under Pike's watch, Wolf and I were alone. The office seemed larger, I said. So Riss forced Vale forward. Yes, but Hart reacted to device. Yes, and Anson is scared. Yes, of Hart. Perhaps of whoever hired Riss. Perhaps of the murderer, certainly. I sat. You said, Anson isn't clever enough. He isn't. Riss is a pawn. Yes, Hart is in the chain. Yes. Dugan may have removed the device. Possibly. Klein is noise, probably. And Loring, useful thunder. I looked at him. Then who is lightning? Wolf closed his eyes. The person who knew Milton Vale's habit, his fear, his appointment with me, his intended will revision, and the exact leverage required to make others act. That's a small list. No, Wolf said. It is large enough. I waited. He opened his eyes. Archie, tomorrow morning, get Saul. I want Mrs. Hart's history for 20 years. Also Daniel Riss's creditors, Dugan's debts, Klein's employer, and every connection among them, and Milton Vale. That's more than morning. Then begin tonight, naturally, and call Miss Vale. Ask whether her father wore his gloves indoors. Why? Because if the ticket punctured him through the glove, someone had to know he would keep them on. I paused. Habit again. Yes, Wolf said. Men think their habits are conveniences. Often they are handles. I went to my desk and picked up the phone. Someone had not pushed Milton Vale. Someone had not needed to. They had merely placed a boy in one seat, prepared another, and trusted an old habit to do the rest. That was the elegance of it, and the ugliness. Chapter 6. The seat that killed. No poison hid in Vale's body. No weapon marked his coat. Rowan found a tiny burn beneath the seat armrest. A thin electric needle had fired when weight pressed the cushion. By the time that fact reached West 35th Street, Wolf had finished breakfast, read 3 newspapers with selective contempt, and dismissed 2 callers who had come to consult him about matters unworthy of homicide. I was in the office pretending to organize notes, which in my case means arranging chaos into slightly more polite chaos, when the telephone rang. It was Pike. "You were right to look at the seat," he said without preface. "That's generous," I told him. "Usually I'm right for the wrong reasons. This time you're right. For the right ones. We found something." "Tell me." "A scorch mark, under the armrest. Small, easy to miss." I sat up. "From what?" "Electrical discharge." "That's interesting." "Yes, more interesting is what we didn't find." "Which is, no chemical trace in the body, no conventional poison." "Then, how?" "Needle," Pike said. "Thin, electrically driven. Likely spring loaded with a trigger connected to pressure in the seat." I let that settle. "So when Vale sat, it didn't fire immediately. It needed more pressure or a shift in weight, like reaching forward." "Exactly." I thought of the ticket. "Then when he reached, the mechanism triggered," Pike said. "Needle fires upward or forward, pierces through fabric, maybe through glove, delivers something, or simply shocks. Shock enough to kill, possibly, or something on the needle, but no poison in the body." "Not one we can detect," Pike said, "or not enough." "That's clever." "That's murder," Pike corrected. Same thing, different tone. He ignored that. "The device is gone." "Of course it is. But the burn remains, and the hole in the seat." "Yes." I nodded slowly, though he couldn't see it. "So the seat killed him. Small charge, battery or capacitor, enough for one use, and then removed." "Yes. That means someone had to be close after it fired, or before the train stopped," Pike said. "Which brings us back to our 4 passengers." "Yes." I smiled without humor. "Circle completed." "Not yet," Pike said. "We're still inside it." I hung up and turned. Wolf was watching me. He had not moved, but his eyes were open, and that meant he had already decided something. "Well," he said. "The seat killed him," I told him. Wolf's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "Electrical needle triggered by pressure, likely fired when Vale shifted, probably reaching for his ticket, which he held when found." "Yes." "No poison detected." "None. Then either the needle delivered something undetectable, or the shock itself was sufficient." Pike leans toward shock or micro. "Dose." Wolf grunted. "Ingenious and contemptible. Same thing from the other side." He ignored that. "Device removed." "Yes, of course." "By whom?" "Summoning in the car." "Which reduces our list," Wolf said. "Or confirms it." Wolf leaned back, eyes half closed. "Let us review." I took my notebook. "Mr. Vale boards the train. His habitual seat is occupied by Mr. Riss, who has been instructed to take it." "Yes." "Mr. Vale moves forward to 18B. "Yes." "He sits. The device does not fire immediately." "Right." "He receives a note from his daughter." "Yes." "He remains seated. At some point he reaches forward, perhaps for his ticket, or to respond." "Yes." "At that moment, pressure changes. The device triggers. The needle fires, delivers shock or something else." "Yes." "He dies quietly. No struggle." "Right." "Shortly thereafter, someone removes the device." "Yes." "And the portfolio?" "Yes." Wolf opened his eyes fully. The removal is crucial, because it requires access. Yes, and timing. After death, before discovery. Precisely. I nodded, which points to someone close. Yes, and confident. And prepared, indeed. I leaned forward. That's not the student. Number, not the clerk, unlikely. Which leaves? The widow, Wolf said. Or the porter? Yes, or both. Possibly. I considered it. Hart passes behind Vale after the note. Could check the device, confirm position. Yes. Dugan sits behind. Waits. Then leans forward after Vale stops moving. Yes. Could remove the device. Yes, that's a clean division of labor. Too clean, Wolf said. I sighed. You're going to keep saying that, until it stops being true. I got up and paced. So, we've got a mechanical murder, pre-arranged. Multi-step, requires knowledge of Vale's habits, access to the train car, and coordination among at least 2 people. Yes, and possibly more. Yes, and Anson feeding information. Certainly, and Riss acting as seat, block. Yes, and Loring as visible threat. Yes. I stopped. That's not a murder. That's an operation. Wolf nodded. Exactly, and Vale walked into it. No, Wolf said. He was led. I looked at him. You keep saying that. Because it is correct. I went back to the chair. There's something else. The device didn't fire when he sat down. Yes, which means it was calibrated. Yes, to a specific action. Yes, reaching forward. Yes, which suggests the killer knew Vale would do that. Or ensured he would, Wolf said. I blinked. How? The ticket. I stared at him. You think the ticket was part of it? I think the ticket was placed where it must be retrieved. In the hatband, yes. And he would naturally take it out at some point. Yes. And that action triggers the device. Yes. I let out a low whistle. That's precise. That is murder, Wolf said. Same thing, again. He ignored me. Then the small hole in the ticket. I began. Maybe unrelated or part of the handling, Wolf said. We shall not assume yet. I nodded. Fair. I leaned back. So the seat kills him, the ticket triggers it, and the device disappears. Yes. And the portfolio. Yes. That still bothers me. It should, Wolf said. Because it means motive isn't just murder. Number, it is acquisition of what was in that portfolio. Yes, which we still don't know. Number, I tapped the notebook. So we've got means, method, and opportunity. Yes. Now we need motive. Yes. And that's where it gets messy. Messiness is often a disguise, Wolf said. For what? For simplicity. I smiled. You always say that right before making it complicated. Because you require preparation. I stood. So what's next? Wolf closed his eyes again. We gather them. All of them? Yes. Again, yes. They're going to love that. I do not care. Of course not. And this time, Wolf said, we will not ask the wrong question. I paused at the door, which is, what killed Mr. Vale? And the right one, who arranged for him to be killed? I nodded slowly. Yeah, I said. That's better. Outside, the city had dried enough to pretend nothing had happened, but somewhere between a seat cushion and a man's habit, a machine had been set, triggered, and erased. No poison, no blade, no struggle, just a seat. And someone who knew exactly how to use it. Chapter 7. The ticket trapped the killer did not need to know the train. Only Vale's habit. The late ticket buyers were not suspects by presence, but by placement. One bought a seat to move a man, another bought time to escape. When I came down the stairs the next morning, Wolf was already in the office, which meant two things. He had slept well, and he intended not to let anyone else do the same. His desk was clear, except for a single sheet of paper, and his expression had settled into that calm severity which usually precedes the dismantling of someone's life. "Archie," he said, "sit." I sat. "We now have mechanism," he continued. "We have method. We have arrangement. What remains?" "Motive," I said. "Foo. Motive is always present. What remains is structure." I thought, that's what we had. "We have fragments," Wolf said. "We require sequence." I leaned back. "All right, let's line it up. Do so." I flipped open my notebook. "Step 1, I said. "Vale plans the trip. His secretary reserves 18B. "Yes." "But Vale usually sits in 19A. "Yes." "So either he changed his habit, or someone changed it for him." "Continue." "Step 2. Someone calls the ticket office at 11:20, confirms Vale's seat, and asks about 19A. "Yes." "Step 3. Riss buys 19A and sits in it." "Yes." "Step 4. Vale boards, finds his seat taken, moves forward to 18B. "Yes." "Step 5. He sits. Device is ready but inactive." "Yes." "Step 6. He receives the note from his daughter." "Yes." "Step 7. He reaches forward, likely for his ticket." "Yes." "Step 8. Device triggers. Needle fires. Vale dies." "Yes." "Step 9. Someone removes the device and the portfolio." "Yes." I closed the notebook. "That's the sequence." Wolf nodded once. "Acceptable. Now we fill in the blanks." "Yes." I leaned forward. "Riss is clearly placed. He blocks 19A. "Yes." "And he admits he was instructed." "Yes." "So he's a tool." "Correct." "Dugan has access to the car beforehand." "Yes." "And is present afterward." "Yes." "Possible installer or remover." "Yes." "Hart moves behind Vale after the note." "Yes." "Possible confirmer or secondary actor." "Yes." "Klein." "Noise," Wolf said. "Still. Still." I grinned. "You don't like clerks." "I dislike irrelevance. Same thing in most offices." Wolf ignored that. "No," I said. "The ticket trap." "Yes, that's the key." "Explain." "The killer didn't need to know the train, only Vale's habit." Wolf's eyes narrowed slightly. "Go on." "Vale keeps his ticket in his hatband. That's his habit." "Yes. So at some point, he'll take it out." "Yes. And when he does, he leans forward." "Yes." "Which triggers the seat." "Yes." "So the killer doesn't need to control the exact moment, just the setup." "Precisely." I tapped the notebook. "That's elegant." "That is murder," Wolf said. "Same thing again." He ignored me. "So the ticket isn't the weapon," I continued. "It's the habit trigger, the thing that made Vale lean exactly as the seat required." "Yes." "And the seat is the weapon." "Yes." "And the placement of Riss ensures Vale sits in the weapon." "Yes." I sat back. "That's the trap." "Yes." "And it only works if Vale behaves normally." "Yes." "Which he does." "Yes." I shook my head. "That's cold. Habit is reliable," Wolf said. "More reliable than intention." I thought about that. "So the killer doesn't need to know trains, just people." "Correct." "And specifically Vale." "Yes. His habits, his fears, his movements." "Yes." I looked at Wolf. "That narrows it." "Indeed. Someone close to him. Or someone who studied him closely, which still means proximity." "Yes." I stood and paced. "Now the late ticket buyers." "Yes. They're not suspects because they were there. They're suspects because of where they were." "Yes." Riss in 19A. "Yes." Hart near 18B. "Yes." Dugan behind. "Yes." Klein ahead. "Yes." That's not random seating. Number, that's placement. Yes. I stopped. One bought a seat to move a man. Rise. Yes. Another bought time to escape. Wolf's eyes opened fully. Which one? That's the question. Yes. Dugan sits behind, could remove the device quickly. Yes, then remain seated, looking innocent. Yes, or heart moves, interacts, then leaves the area. Yes. Either could create the window needed. Yes. I frowned, but the timing is tight, which implies rehearsal, Wolf said, or confidence, or both. I sat again. So the killer orchestrates multiple people, each doing a small part. Yes. And none of them necessarily knows the whole plan. Correct. That's why Riss thinks it's a prank. Yes. And why Hart says nothing. Yes. And why Dugan sits still. Yes. And why Anson lies. Yes. I looked at Wolf. You've got it, haven't you? He closed his eyes. I have sufficient, he said. That's not the same as telling me. Number tree again. Number, I sighed. All right, let's push further. Yes. The portfolio, I said, still missing. Yes. That's not incidental. Number, that's motive. Part of it. Meaning, possibly primary. So the murder was to get what was in it. Yes. Not just to kill Vale. Yes. Which means whoever planned this knew what was in that portfolio, correct? And wanted it badly enough to build a mechanical trap on a train. Yes. I let out a breath. That's serious. Yes. Then the will matters. Yes. And Loring. Yes. And the old patent dispute. Yes. And the bonds. Yes. I rubbed my temples. That's a lot of threads. They converge, Wolf said. Where? He opened his eyes and looked at me. At the person who arranged the seats. I smiled slowly. Back to the beginning. Always, Wolf said. The doorbell rang. I got up, went to the hall, and opened it. Inspector Kramer stood there, looking like a man who had been arguing with reality and losing. I've got them, he said. All of them? I asked. Yes. And this time Wolf talks straight. He always does, I said. It's just that nobody understands him. Kramer snorted and pushed past me. Back in the office, Wolf did not rise. Good morning, Inspector, he said. Cut it, Kramer replied. You said you had something. I do, then say it. Wolf glanced at me. I took my place at the desk. All participants are present? Wolf asked. They're coming up, Kramer said. Excellent. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Wolf folded his hands. Archie, he said quietly. Observe closely. I always do. No, Wolf said. You observe broadly. Today, observe precisely. I nodded. The door opened. One by one they entered. The student, the widow, the porter, the clerk, Anson, Loring, and finally Eleanor Vale, 7 people. 7 positions, 1 dead man. Wolf looked at them all. The wrong question has been asked repeatedly, he said. What killed Milton Vale? That is now answered. A device in a seat. But that is not the question that matters. No one spoke. The question, Wolf continued, is who arranged for Milton Vale to sit in that seat? Silence held. And why? He leaned forward slightly. And that, he said, we will now determine. I settled back, pen ready. The trap had been built with tickets, habits, and timing. Now it was Wolf's turn to spring it. Chapter 8, The Porter's Lie. The porter claimed the last car was nearly empty all evening, but ticket timing proved someone boarded, entered, and left before departure. Only staff could pass without being noticed twice. The porter's keys opened the seat panel. If there is one thing I have learned working for Nero Wolfe, it is that a lie is rarely useful by itself. It becomes useful only when placed beside something that cannot lie, like time or money or habit. By the time Chapter 8 began, the lies in our case had started to align themselves like suspects at a police lineup. each one hoping the light would fall on someone else. They were all in the office. Wolf had arranged them with care, not casually, not arbitrarily, but as if their positions in the room mattered almost as much as their positions on the train. Eleanor Vale sat nearest the desk, pale but steady. Anson hovered behind her like a shadow, unsure of its purpose. Mrs. Hart took a chair to the side, composed but no longer serene. Klein sat stiffly, hands folded as if awaiting instructions from a higher authority. Riss looked as though he would prefer to vanish. Loring stood, refusing to sit, which suited him, and Dugan, the porter, sat slightly apart, broad and still, like a piece of furniture that had decided to listen. Inspector Kramer planted himself near the globe, arms folded. Jaw set, Pike remained quiet, near the window, which was becoming his habit. I took my desk, pen ready. Wolf looked at them one by one. "Mr. Dugan," he said. The porter lifted his head. "You stated that the last car was nearly empty all evening." "Yes. That statement is false." Dugan did not move. Number Wolf's eyes narrowed. "You misunderstand. I did not say it might be false. I said, it is false." Kramer shifted, interested. Dugan said, "I was there. I saw who was there." "And who was not," Wolf said. "Which is more difficult?" Dugan's jaw tightened. "What are you getting at?" "Time," Wolf said. He turned slightly to me. "Archie." I obliged. "Ticket sales," I said. 4 passengers entered within minutes of departure, but we also have a call to the ticket office at 11:20, confirming Vale's reservation and asking about 19A. That caller had to know the situation before boarding. Wolf nodded. "And yet none of the passengers admits to boarding early enough to make that call," Pike added quietly. "Which means someone was there before them." Wolf inclined his head. "Yes." Dugan shifted slightly in his chair. "Someone boarded," Wolf continued. "Entered the last car and left again before departure." "No one did," Dugan said. Wolf did not raise his voice. "Only staff could pass without being noticed twice." Silence. It thickened, Kramer said. "That's right. Passengers get seen, staff don't." Dugan's eyes flicked once. "Just once. That was enough," Wolf said. "Mr. Dugan, you work the rail yard?" "Yes." "You had access to the car before it was attached?" "Yes." "You had access to it after?" "Yes." "You possess keys?" "Yes." "Keys, which open not only doors, but panels." Dugan's hands tightened on his knees. "What panels?" Kramer demanded. Wolf did not look at him. The panel beneath the seat armrest. Kramer turned sharply to Dugan. "You didn't mention that." Dugan said nothing. Wolf continued. "The device which killed Mr. Vale was not merely placed in the seat. It was installed within it, that requires access to the internal structure. Access not available to passengers," Pike said quietly, "but available to staff." Wolf inclined his head. "And removable only by someone who knew how to open that panel," he added. Kramer's voice hardened. "You're saying he installed it?" "I am saying he could have," Wolf replied. Dugan's voice came low. "I didn't kill anyone." "No," Wolf said. "You did not." That landed harder than an accusation. Kramer blinked. "What?" Wolf turned his head slightly. "Mr. Dugan did not design the device. He did not select the victim. He did not arrange the seats." Dugan looked up, but Wolf continued. "He opened the panel." Silence again. Dugan's shoulders shifted, just enough. "I didn't know what it was," he said. Kramer exploded. "You just said you didn't touch anything." Dugan didn't look at him. He looked at Wolf. "They told me it was a maintenance job," he said. "Who told you?" Wolf asked. "I don't know. Describe." "A man. Met me outside the yard. Said there was a loose fitting in one of the seats. Paid me to fix it." "How much?" "50. I almost smiled. The number was becoming familiar. "When?" Wolf asked. "Before my shift ended." "Did he specify the seat?" "Yes." "Which one?" 18B. No one moved. "Did you install the device?" Wolf asked. "I installed something," Dugan said. "A small unit, wired. I didn't know what it did." "That is a lie," Wolf said calmly. Dugan swallowed. "I knew it wasn't normal," he admitted. "Of course you did. I thought it was some kind of signal device, not—" He stopped. "Not murder," Wolf said. Dugan nodded. "Did you test it?" Wolf asked. "Number did the man instruct you to return?" "Yes." "When?" "After the train left. He said I should ride in the car and remove the unit after the signal." "After the signal," Wolf repeated. "Yes." "And you did?" "Yes, after Mr. Vale died." Dugan's jaw tightened. "After he stopped moving." Kramer stepped forward. "You're under arrest." "Sit down, Inspector," Wolf said. Kramer turned. "He admits it. He admits participation," Wolf said. "Not authorship." "That's enough for me." "It is insufficient for me," Wolf replied. Kramer glared, but did not move further. Wolf turned back to Dugan. "Describe the man." "I didn't get a good look." "That is unhelpful." "He wore a hat." "Coat collar up." Spoke clearly. "Not local." "Did he give a name?" "Number, did he know your name?" "Yes, how?" "I don't know." "Did he mention Mr. Vale?" "Number, did he mention the train?" "Yes." "Said it had to be that train." "Did he mention timing?" "Yes." "Said it had to be done before departure." Wolf nodded slowly. "Which means," he said, "the device was installed before Mr. Vale boarded." "Yes," Pike said. "And removed after his death," Wolf added. "Yes, and Mr. Dugan's lie," Wolf said, turning slightly toward the room, "was not about what he did, but about who was present." Dugan looked up. "You said the car was empty," Wolf continued, "because you wished to conceal that someone else had been there before the passengers." Dugan said nothing. "That person entered," Wolf said, "ensured the arrangement was complete, and departed unseen." "Only staff could do that," Pike said. "Yes, or someone dressed like staff," I added. Wolf inclined his head. Eleanor Vale spoke for the first time. "You mean someone came onto the train before we did?" "Yes," Wolf said, "and set the trap." "Yes." "And left?" "Yes." She looked at Dugan. "And you helped them?" Dugan did not answer. Wolf said, "He was paid, as was Mr. Riss." "And perhaps others," I said. "Yes," Wolf agreed. Kramer snorted. "So, we've got hired hands." "Fine. Who's paying them?" Wolf's eyes moved, slow and deliberate, across the room. "That," he said, "is the only question that remains." Loring shifted. Anson looked down. Mrs. Hart did not move at all. The room held its breath. "The arrangement required knowledge," Wolf continued. "Knowledge of Mr. Vale's habits, knowledge of his travel, knowledge of the train, knowledge of the seat." He paused. "And knowledge of human behavior." No one spoke. He leaned back. "And certainty," he said softly, "comes only from familiarity." I felt it then, not the answer, not yet, but the shape of it. The porter had opened the seat. The student had taken the place. The widow had moved at the right moment. The clerk had filled the space. But none of them had designed the pattern Summoners had. Summoner who knew exactly how to make a man step forward into death and never realize he had been led there. Chapter 9. The financier's debt veil had ruined the porter's father through a false investment. Years later, the son carried luggage by day and revenge by night. He studied Vale's routine until habit became a map. Then he turned 18B into a silent gallows. If Chapter 8 had loosened the knot, Chapter 9 pulled the string free. The room was quieter now, not from peace, but from pressure. Dugan sat with his shoulders squared, but something in him had shifted. Before, he had been a wall. Now he was a door that knew it might open. Wolf regarded him. "Mr. Dugan," he said, "you have admitted installing and removing the device. You have not admitted why." Dugan said nothing. "That omission," Wolf continued, "is less convincing than your previous denials." Kramer barked. Answer him. Dugan ignored him. His eyes stayed on Wolf. Wolf sighed faintly. Very well, I shall answer for you. That got attention. You were approached, Wolf said. Not at random, but by design. The man who hired you knew your position, your access, and your need for money. That is not coincidence. That is selection. Dugan's jaw tightened. You were not chosen merely because you could open a panel, Wolf went on. You were chosen because you would accept the task. Anion would, Dugan muttered. No, Wolf said. Not anyone. A man with no connection to Milton Vale might hesitate. You did not. Dugan looked up sharply. Wolf's eyes were steady. Because you had reason, he said. Silence. It stretched. Eleanor Vale leaned forward slightly. What reason? Wolf did not take his eyes off Dugan. Mr. Dugan's father. Dugan flinched. That was enough. Kramer pounced. What about his father? Wolf said calmly. Milton Vale was a financier. He made money, he lost money. More importantly, he caused others to lose money. That's business, Loring said dryly. Sometimes, Wolf said. Sometimes it is theft in a better suit. He turned his head slightly toward me. Archie. I flipped a page. We pulled records last night. 20 years ago, a small investment syndicate collapsed. Backed by Milton Vale, several investors ruined. Wolf nodded. Among them, Thomas Dugan, I said. The porter closed his eyes. Eleanor Vale whispered. I remember something. My father mentioned a dispute. Wolf said. Thomas Dugan lost everything. His savings, his business, his health. He died within 2 years. Kramer looked at the porter. That your old man? Dugan nodded once. And you never forgot, Wolf said. Dugan's voice came low. Number? Of course not. Loring gave a short, humorless laugh. The great Milton Vale collecting his debts. Or paying them, Wolf said. Dugan looked up. He never paid. No, Wolf agreed. He did not. Silence again, Wolf continued, his tone even. You grew up with that loss. You watched what it did, and you watched the man responsible grow richer. Dugan's hands clenched. You took work where you could, Wolf said. Rail yard porter, you carried luggage for men like him. Dugan's voice hardened. I carried it for anyone who paid, of course. But you watched, and you learned. Dugan did not deny it. Years passed, Wolf said, and you observed Mr. Vale's habits, his travel, his routine. You learned when he rode, where he sat, how he behaved. Dugan's breathing had changed. Slower, heavier. Habit, Wolf said, became your map. No one spoke. You knew he preferred 19A, Wolf went on. You knew he kept his ticket in his hatband. You knew he would move forward if displaced. You knew how to guide him. Dugan's eyes flicked once. To Riss. That's why the student was placed, Wolf said. Riss shrank slightly in his chair. And you, Wolf said to Dugan, installed the device in 18B, a seat he would occupy only if forced. Dugan swallowed. And then you waited, Wolf said. The room seemed to tighten around that word. You waited, Wolf repeated. For him to sit, for him to act, for him to trigger the mechanism you had set. Dugan's voice came out rough. I didn't build it. No, Wolf said. You did not. Kramer snapped. Then who did? Wolf did not answer him. He looked at Dugan. You did not build it, but you knew what it was. Dugan shook his head once. Not at first. At first, Wolf said. You told yourself it was something else. Something harmless. A signal, a device. Anything but what it was. Dugan's jaw worked. But when you installed it, Wolf said quietly, you understood. Dugan did not speak, and you proceeded anyway. Yes, Dugan said. The word dropped like a weight. Eleanor Vale drew in a breath. You killed him. Dugan looked at her. He killed my father. That does not. It does to me, Dugan said. Kramer stepped forward. You're finished, pal. Wolf raised a hand. Number Kramer turned. No, Wolf said. Mr. Dugan is not finished. He is incomplete. What are you talking about? Kramer demanded. Wolf's gaze returned to Dugan. You installed the device. You removed it. You arranged the placement of Mr. Riss, but you did not act alone. Dugan's eyes hardened. I did. No, Wolf said. You did not. I did. No, Wolf repeated, still calm. You knew Mr. Vale's habits, Wolf said. You knew his routine, but you did not know his appointment with me. Dugan said nothing. You did not know he had summoned his lawyer, Wolf continued. You did not know he intended to revise his will. You did not know he had warned his daughter. Dugan's silence grew heavier. You did not know, Wolf said, which train car would be attached that night. Dugan's eyes flickered. And you did not build that device, Wolf said, which required skill you do not possess. Kramer said slowly. Then someone helped him. Yes, Wolf said. Who? Kramer demanded. Wolf did not answer immediately. He looked at Dugan. Mr. Dugan, he said, you had motive, you had access, you had opportunity, but you did not have design. Dugan's voice was low. I had enough. No, Wolf said. You had assistance. Dugan shook his head. You had a partner, Wolf said. Number, yes. Dugan's voice rose. No. Wolf did not raise his. Yes, he said. Silence fell again. It held longer this time. Then Dugan's shoulders sagged just slightly. I didn't plan all of it, he said. Kramer leaned in. Who did? Dugan did not answer. Wolf's eyes narrowed. The person, he said. Who turned your revenge into a mechanism? No one spoke. The person who knew enough to make your anger useful. Still silence. The person, Wolf said softly, who ensured that Mr. Vale's death would not merely occur, but appear inevitable. Dugan closed his eyes and did not answer. Wolf leaned back. That, he said, is the final piece. I felt it then, the shape of the solution, almost complete. The porter had motive, the student had placement, the device had method, but someone else had made it all fit together. Someone who did not just want Milton Vale dead, but wanted him to die perfectly. Chapter 10, The Last Street Up. Rowan arrested the porter at dawn, beside the engine smoke. The weapon was not poison, he said. It was expectation. Val died because he sat exactly where the killer knew he would. On Riddle Street, even a seat can confess. That was the newspaper version, and as usual the newspaper had managed to get the shape of the thing and miss the bones. Dugan was arrested. Yes, Pike arrested him at dawn beside the black breath of a yard engine, while the rails shone wet and the city was still deciding whether to wake up. But Dugan was not the whole of it. He was the hand that turned the screw, not the mind that drew the plan. Wolf had known that by midnight. At 11 that morning, the office was full again. Kramer was there, swollen with lack of sleep and official impatience. Pike stood near the bookshelves. Eleanor Vale sat rigidly in the red leather chair. Loring was by the window, grim and silent. Anson looked as if his collar were tightening by the minute. Mrs. Hart wore black and serenity. Dugan, in custody, sat between two policemen. Wolf regarded them with dislike. Not personal dislike. That would have required effort. He disliked the disorder they represented. Mr. Dugan, he said, killed Milton Vale. Dugan lifted his head. Mrs. Hart closed her eyes for 1 second too long. But Wolf continued. He did not invent the murder. He was given a wound and persuaded it was justice. Kramer barked. Name. Wolf ignored him. The essential facts are plain. Mr. Vale habitually occupied 19A. Mr. Riss was hired to occupy it. Mr. Vale moved to 18B. The device beneath that seat fired when he shifted forward to take his ticket. Mr. Dugan installed and removed it. Dugan said hoarsely, I did it. Yes, Wolf said, and you were meant to say so. That struck him. Wolf turned to Mrs. Hart. Madam, you supplied the design. Her serenity cracked, But only a little. That is absurd. Number, it is elegant, and therefore not Mr. Dugan's. You knew Mr. Vale before last night. I did not. Foo, she flushed. Wolf lifted a sheet from his desk. Agnes Hart was once Agnes Merrow, a fact hinted by the old engineer's habit she had never quite lost. Watching mechanisms before people, your late husband, Charles Hart, was an engineer. He designed compact electrical release mechanisms for surgical instruments. After his death, you sold certain plans. One purchaser was Milton Vale. Loring turned sharply. Wolf continued. Mr. Vale cheated your husband's estate, as he cheated Mr. Loring's father, as he cheated Mr. Dugan's father. He left ruin behind him like cigar ash. That explains hatred. It does not explain murder. Murder required opportunity, Mrs. Hart said. You have no proof. Wolf nodded to me. I rose and placed 3 items on his desk: a pawn ticket, a scrap of insulated wire, and a small brass key. The pawn ticket, I said, was found in your room. It corresponds to a miniature battery pack sold yesterday morning. The wire matches insulation found in the seat panel. The key opens a railway service panel. Dugan's key opened it too, but yours was copied. Kramer stared. Where did you get that? Saul Panzer, I said. He enjoys mornings. Mrs. Hart's hands tightened. Wolf said, you hired Riss to block 19A. You hired Dugan because he had access and grievance. You used Anson because he was weak. Anson whispered. I didn't know. No, Wolf said. You knew enough to be afraid. You told her Vale's travel plans and his appointment with me. You told her of the portfolio. Eleanor looked at him. Philip. Anson sagged. She said she could ruin me. With what? Kramer demanded. Money I had taken, Anson said. From Mr. Vale's accounts. I meant to replace it. People always mean to replace stolen money, I said. It's one of its charms. Wolf resumed. The portfolio contained Mr. Vale's dictated instructions for a new will. He intended to make restitution to several victims, including Mr. Loring and Mr. Dugan's family. That would have deprived Mrs. Hart of what she sought. Mrs. Hart laughed once. I sought what was owed. No, Wolf said. You sought revenge disguised as accounting. Mr. Vale's repentance came too late for your husband, so you preferred his death to his confession. Dugan stared at her. You said he would never pay. He wouldn't have, she snapped. Wolf said, he had already begun. The portfolio proves it. Eleanor reached into her bag and withdrew a black leather folder. This, the room froze. She placed it on Wolf's desk. My father gave it to me before we boarded. The one on the train was empty. He said if anything happened, I was to bring this to Mr. Wolf. For the first time, Wolf looked pleased. Your father, he said, was less foolish than he seemed. Mrs. Hart stood. Number Kramer moved. So did Pike. It was Pike who took her wrist. She did not struggle. Hatred had carried her to murder. But it had no talent for handcuffs. Dugan stared at the floor. She used me. Yes, Wolf said. But you were usable. That was cruel and exact. When they were gone, Eleanor Vale opened the portfolio. Inside were papers, signed instructions, lists of names, amounts and old wrongs. Loring's face changed as he read his father's name. Not joy. Something heavier. My father tried to mend it, Eleanor said. Wolf shook his head. Number he tried to pay. Mending is beyond money. She accepted that. Kramer took his hat. You could have told me sooner. I did, Wolf said, repeatedly. You preferred poison. Pike smiled faintly. Kramer growled and left. When the door closed, Wolf rang for beer, I said. The papers will say Pike solved it. Let them. They'll say the seat confessed. Chairs do not confess, Wolf said. People do, and expectations kill. Yes, he leaned back. Mr. Vale died because someone knew what he would do before he did it. That is the danger of habit. You have habits. I have safeguards. Such as never leaving the house. Precisely. Fritz entered with beer. Wolf took the glass, inspected the foam, and found civilization restored. Outside, New York went on making noise, selling lies, and buying tickets. Inside, the brownstones settled back into order. The last stop had been reached. The ride was no longer empty.